Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. Jazza Dickens, apparently enjoying a bit of an Indian summer of a career. He scored a fourth round TKO over the previously undefeated Albert Batyrgaziev, who is a former Olympic champion, no less, from the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo. He won the featherweight gold. And Jazza, 34 years old, which is 7 years older than Batyrgaziev, went to Turkey. Batyrgaziev is Russian, had fought all his previous fights in Russia against pretty decent opposition. And Jazza got him out of there in 4 rounds via 2 fourth-round knockdowns. Now, this is a really fantastic win because Batyrgaziev was being groomed as a potential, world champion. And like I say, if you look at Batyrgaziev's record, 3 of his last 4 opponents were undefeated fighters. Now, of course, because you've got an undefeated record, it doesn't necessarily mean that you've been fighting anyone. But nevertheless, it does show that there is some ambition there. That you're not just fighting journeymen to sort of collect rounds for the sake of it. You're not fighting complete cream puffs. And of the last four fights that Batyrgaziev had, the one that wasn't against an undefeated fighter was against none other than John O'Carroll, and that was a 9th round TKO. So he only had 12 fights going into this contest, 12 wins with 8 KOs. But I don't think you can. I don't think looking at his box rec, I don't think you can knock Batyrgaziev the way he was being brought along. Now, the question, therefore, is why do they pick Jazza Dickens? Jazza's a tough veteran. He's coming off a very good win over Zelfa Barrett. Very good win, 10-round unanimous decision. Well, if you look at his record on paper, it was 35 wins with 14 KOs going in. He had 5 defeats, and 4 of them were by stoppage. Jazza at 34, he turned pro in 2011, which is, 9 years before Batyrgaziev turned pro. He twice lost to Kid Galahad. I think one was at super bantam, one was at featherweight. He is a former British super bantamweight champ, Jazza is. So you're thinking, okay, smaller man maybe. He got stopped in 2 rounds 9 years ago by Guillermo Rigondeaux with a busted jaw. He got knocked absolutely flat by Hector Sosa. That was 2 years ago. Jazza's record, if you look at it, suggests that he has certain vulnerabilities, which is probably why he was picked. However, Albert Batyrgaziev definitely had, should we say, a strong hint of vulnerability, because in his previous fight he was floored. I think it was twice in the second or third round, and got up to win a unanimous 12-round decision. He's done 12 rounds as well. So Batyrgaziev, you can't really knock the way he's been brought on, but he has looked a little bit chinny in the past. And I think with this defeat, it was confirmed that his chin is not great, because he isn't the type of guy who will go over, just go over. He'll go over and he will look rubbery-legged and out of it. He just doesn't seem to have a great deal of punch resistance. And he is only 27. It's not like he's, seen better days. The fight, the 2 southpaws, by the way, Dickens and Batyrgaziev, both southpaws. The fight began, I gave Jazza the first 2 rounds. I thought he was... Jazza with his 5 defeats, I'll tell you what, we've said it so many times before, if you learn from your defeats, yes, of course, they are major setbacks. Having a busted jaw against Rigondeaux was a setback years ago. Being beaten twice by Kid Galahad they were both setbacks. One of those was for a vacant world belt as well. But if you learn from them, you can at least turn the negatives into potential positives. And Dickens seems to have done this, because he looked in this fight away from home. This was fought in Turkey, by the way, the Batyrgaziev fight. He looked completely calm, poised, really picked his punches very, very well. Jazza, now he's got 36 wins with 15 KOs, but I'll tell you what, he hits a bit harder than that. It's just that he doesn't try to knock you out, not much. He does load up with singles, crafty singles that he'll throw from that southpaw stance with both hands. And when they land, they visibly have an effect on opponents. They at least get the opponent's attention. In this case, they actually led to Batyrgaziev's downfall. But Jazza is a crafty veteran. We saw that in his most recent fight against Zelfa Barrett, where, to be honest with you, I gave him most of those rounds. I think I gave him about 7 or 8 of the rounds anyway. Against Zelfa himself is a good fighter. Looked a bit stale, which is probably why he changed trainers. But very good win for Dickens. But he's quite happy to box you, or he'll throw hurtful punches. And we know from his defeat, his second defeat to Kid Galahad, where he really showed guts by the bucket. And Galahad wore him down and he was pulled out by his corner after 11 rounds. Even when he's lost, even by stoppage, with the exception of the Gimerlo-Rigondeaux fight where he suffered a busted jaw in the first round, most of his defeats, they've been competitive. He's at least given back a fair old bit. And that really showed, because that experience is so invaluable. That showed in this fight against a guy who may have been 12-0 at the time, was being groomed for superstardom, a much younger man. And I wouldn't say it was quite man against boy in there, but at the same time, it did look like a hardened professional against a far less experienced professional. I thought this was an excellent performance by Dickens. In the third round, Batyrgaziev was throwing a lot of punches, but it looked like he was fighting at a pace he didn't particularly like. Don't forget, this was a 12 rounder. By the way, this was for the WBA interim belt, I think, it's a load of bullshit. We know that these interim and regular belts are a load of crap. We know about the WBA, most recently putting Jake Paul in their top 15 cruiserweights. That says all you need to know about the WBA and their rankings. But nevertheless, the belt does give Jazza a bargaining chip to use. But Batyrgaziev in the third round, he was throwing a lot of punches. He was having moderate success, but he was getting countered very well with singles. And most notably, when they were up close and personal, considering Jazza is a former super bantamweight, the stronger guy looked like Jazza, physically stronger. He wasn't backing off. He was putting that controlled, constantly edging forward pressure that creates sort of mental doubt, as well as obviously the physical pressure of having to avoid and maybe even take punches. And Batyrgaziev seemed to be in a fight, the type of fight he'd never been in before. Well, he did moderately better in the third round, but in the fourth round, Jazza caught him with, I think it was a right hook, and straight away Batyrgaziev's legs were all over the place. He staggered sideways and eventually got bundled to the floor. It was clearly a count. Gets up, gets chased around the ring by Jazza, who again putting the heat on, putting the pressure on, but not doing it recklessly. All that experience coming into the fore, able to, cut the ring off, bang, 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 looking for the big punch, but at the same time not just throwing wild haymakers. Eventually, Batyrgaziev goes on the floor again by the ropes. No chance of him really recovering. He just didn't. His legs looked like rubber, doing that, spaghetti dance. And the towel came in, and his corner stopped the fight. And I don't blame him either, because Batyrgaziev looks chinny to me. And I think this rather proved it. Because Jazza, although he does hit harder than his record suggests, nevertheless, he's not a one-punch banger. He doesn't try to be. He doesn't pretend to be. So, I don't know. I think that Jazza's got a lot of life left in him now. A lot of life. And, at this particular weight, this super featherweight weight, would I give him a chance against the champions? What have we got? Nunes is IBF, Navarrete's WBO. Shaki Foster's WBC. I don't know. He's got this WBO belt that gets him a shot at the WBO title. I wouldn't rule him out. I would not rule him out. But at super feather, junior lightweight, whatever they call it these days, super feather, isn't they call it now? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. Is it Laurent Roach's WBA champ? Would I give him a chance against Roach? Yeah, I think he's an underdog against all the champions. Thinking about it, I'm just sort of riffing this in my head off the cuff, but I would probably favour the champions, but don't rule out Jazza Dickens. He might end up being one of those, very, very good fighters who's underrated but can't quite get over the line, in the world title shots like a Martin Murray or a Harold Graham or any number of others you care to mention. But yeah, let me know. Go and have a look at this fight. It was on DAZN, and from Turkey they did a card. It was obviously a midweek card. But if you've got DAZN, go and have a look at it, because this is a good performance by Jazza. I'm glad, because he's a nice guy. No one's ever given him anything. He's gone out and earned it. So let me know what you think. Comments below. And if you like this video, please hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel if you don't mind, because you help us out a great deal. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Looking forward to reading what you've got to say, and bye for now.